Hello, Reverend Summers and the Evaluation Committee for the Peer Recognition Award. This is Dr. Wolfe recording a digital portfolio to support my nomination for the trait. Demonstrates deep knowledge and expertise in methodology and content area that enables creative and inspired teaching. So I looked up the characteristics of that trait in the faculty handbook, and I would like to address each one of the bulleted points here. So the first bulleted point is, what ways do you reflectively improve on the classroom experience for students, revising units, etc. So what I have here on my file is something I do for each and every test that I give. In AP Statistics, this is a Chapter 1 test analysis that I have, where for each of the 10 multiple choice questions, I recorded the students' wrong answers. And what this helps me identify are particular questions like number 10, 8, and 2, where many students got the problem wrong, and it not only helps them in that I'm going to reteach some of that material, but also for future note packets and such, I'm going to go in and I'm going to revise my instructional material to try to address those issues. The other thing I like to do to make students aware of their performance is to give them an analysis of test results. After all, they're in a statistics class, so here for a Chapter 1 test, I drew a few diagrams, ones they would have just studied in the class, called a stem and leaf diagram and a box plot. So they compare themselves with others, and 2 class periods, period C and F, can compare themselves with each other. So it's kind of a fun and interesting way to summarize the results of a test experience. The second bulleted point is, how do I foster meaningful collaboration with members of the school community? Well, a couple of things here. First, people call me the stats guru. In the upper school here, I do teach all the statistics courses in the math department. I have 3 preps, all of which involve teaching statistics. Some faculty members who are pursuing advanced degrees have asked for help with their master's theses, dissertations, and some stat classes they were taking in graduate school. I'm also known for helping manage the upper school daily schedule, so we're always keeping a balance of instructional minutes across class periods. Surveys, so much data. I've helped faculty interpret data from surveys. And gradebook math. Many faculty, as we change from gradebook program to gradebook program, I think we're on our 3rd one in recent years, many people have sought my help to understand how students' averages are computed in the gradebook. So those are just some of the collaborative things I do. As far as technology in my classroom, technology is a huge part of my classroom life and my students' life. First, in MySA, I use it to its fullest capabilities as a learning management system. To show you that, here's a typical MySA webpage for one of my classes. This is Statistics College Prep, and this is a typical bulletin board that I have set up. Under here, though, importantly, there are these topics, and in each of these topics is embedded a whole sequence of files that are helpful for student learning for each of the units and chapters that we cover. So one of the last things these students worked on was a project, and anything I do in the classroom on my smartboard gets saved and digitized right here so students can look at it later in case they need some clarification of any of the work we do. Links to some of the things they needed in their project, some videos I created explaining some of the things in Excel. Excel is new to these students, so they sometimes need some extra instructional time outside of class. And then finally, all handouts I give are here as well in case students have misplaced them or are at home and their work is at school, so they'll always have digital access to it. As far as another use of MySA, assignments is an important part. Under assignments, each and every performance item and process item is listed here, so students are constantly aware of managing their time and knowing what's due when. We have a graphing calculator that we use in all of my statistics classes. They're all calculator allowed 100% of the time. So I have this graphing calculator that we spend a lot of time instructing the students on so that they can master its features. I also went to some training and got a copy of JMP software. It's a student edition of SAS, a powerful statistical analysis software used by practicing statisticians. So students are getting real-life exposure to some statistical software in my class. There are at least 4 stat labs in every one of my AP Stat classes that are above and beyond the AP curriculum. And then finally, I think the Microsoft suite, Word, Excel, and PowerPoint are important tools that students need to use to produce a professional looking report. So my seniors that I just had in my college prep stat class, let me demonstrate that in Excel, they had to take some data in a spreadsheet, create a bunch of graphical displays, of which I instructed them how to do, and then turn all that into a professional presentation. So students who are not particularly good at math can still produce very meaningful stuff in my class in statistics. So here I can show you a PowerPoint produced by a student as a final project, just flashing through it really quickly because I don't want to spend too much time. But you can see we've taught them how to summarize data in both numerical and graphical displays. We've taught them some technical typing skills. This type of typing was created in Microsoft Word. Also, communication is important, so students are not only crunching out some numbers, but they're explaining what they're finding as well. Again, you can see a nice layout of a student learning how to use Microsoft Word to type equations and nice math formulas and expressions, as well as making use of Excel to create these nice graphical displays that you see me flashing through for you. So again, quite a low-level math student in a college prep stat class doing really good work for me. Next bullet, we have to what extent does instruction and assessment reflect my goals? So I thought this one was hard to demonstrate, but some bullet points here are that behind the scenes, I put in a lot of work for every lesson every day so we're not wasting a single instructional minute. I also do a really good job balancing student workload. Everything I assign is meaningful, designed to get mastery of content out of the students. Another thing I do is collect every assignment from every student. This is not a typical math class where you're doing 10 of the same problem and mastering it. Every problem is so very different and has so many different skills embedded that I need to collect them and give students meaningful feedback each time. I always work on creating meaningful tests in my AP and IB classes because after all I am preparing them for a year-end national exam. And then finally, each of my students for sure knows they've been graded fairly based on the abundance of opportunities in the form of process and performance assessments. So to show you a typical assignment from me in an AP Stat class, here's my answer key. This is what students are doing in a typical assignment, just answering some problems, writing and computing and communicating, and every single thing they hand me, I read every word and give them some feedback. To show you how much emphasis I do put on grading and instruction, also just so you can see a quick spreadsheet here of my gradebook. Let's hide some of those names, but dating back all the way to January, you can see my college prep stat class. All of these assignments and grades from January to May, every single one of them with every single word read and looked over by me to give them meaningful feedback. So I do emphasize that and take pride in doing that. What extent am I an expert? Well, being an AP and IB teacher, I feel a huge responsibility to prepare students to do well in those exams. One of the ways I kind of maybe stand out in that goal is that in June for the past 5 years, I went and graded AP exams for the College Board. And in that process, I've definitely learned the science behind the rubrics for those exams and have brought back great tips for helping my students improve their scores. And then this year, I applied to be an IB examiner, and I'm currently grading IB exams. Likewise, this is an invaluable process that's going to give me great insight into helping my students improve their scores in the coming years. As far as IB goes, since this is a current process for me, I'll give you a quick peek. This is what happens in the world of IB. These exams are digitally uploaded, and as an IB examiner, I download them, and each exam by me is scored. I've already memorized and trained myself on the rubric, so when I look at each problem, I know if it's right or wrong, and I give it an appropriate score, part by part, question by question, carefully reading the answers to know if they have can be awarded the points or not. Okay, and then finally, how am I keeping current? Well, I do spend a lot of time on the internet, And one of the organizations that's important to me is the ASA, the American Statistical Association. They've got a statistics teacher webpage on with an extreme amount of resources here. For the College Board, there's an AP professional learning community, and there's discussion boards and resources as well. The two publishers of the textbooks that I use are Macmillan and Pearson. They've got lots of interesting things on their web pages also for teacher resources. Textus Instruments is the current calculator software that we use, so I'm always on there looking at stuff. And as well, IB has a professional learning community called the Online Curriculum Center, and from here there's many valuable things that I can do to improve my instruction. Okay, so that's it. I hope that introduced you to the work that I do here at St. Andrews every day, and I'd like to thank you again for considering me for this award.